Hold up. Wait a minute.
This is Carla Renata, aka the Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm always shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Curvy Critic with Carla Renata. Welcome, yay! It's super bright. Turn that down just a little bit. Hey, what's happening? Okay, there we go. The hair is not acting right. There we go. Oh boy, I looked crazy for a second. Hey y'all, I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Hope all is good in your world. Everything's a little funky in mine, but that's okay. We're gonna keep it moving. So I have a full pack show for you today. I finally have my interview with John David and Malcolm Washington from the piano lesson, and we're going to talk about Moana, and we're also going to talk about Porcelain War, the end and day of the fight. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about this Porcelain War documentary real quick. I usually talk about what I did the week before, but I'll get into that later on because the week was kind of crazy. So Porcelain War is a documentary that was the 2024 Grand Jury Prize winner at Sundance for the U.S. documentary competition, and it's going to be opening. Well, it's not going to be, but it opened in New York at the IFC Center on November 22nd, and in LA at the Lamel Monica on November 29th. I'm not sure when its wide release will be. I will let you know when I find out. But it's co-directed by Leon Tev and Brendan Bellomo. It has extraordinary footage from first-time cinematographer Stefanoff. And Porcelain War kind of embodies the passion and the fight that only an artist can put back into the world when it's crumbling around them. So this is the situation. Amidst the chaos and destruction of the brutal Russian invasion of the Ukraine, three artists defiantly find inspiration and beauty as they defend their culture and their country. When I so as the war intensifies, um, Andre picks up his camera and to film their story, and they do it on these tiny, tiny, tiny porcelain figurines. Anya and Slava capture their idyllic past and uncertain present and their hope for the future in these porcelain figurines. What I found fascinating about this is that whenever there is a war or there is unrest on a global level, human beings always turn to the arts for comfort. It's like comfort food. You know, film is like comfort food for artists and the industry and people at large. They just turn to something that makes them, tap into something that's a little more pleasant to think about, like music. So I think that's why, for whatever reason, there's been a lot of musicals that have been released this year. And I'll talk about that because I have one or two of them that we're talking about in this podcast. But I say that to say the first images of this film tell you so much. The first image, you see this little dog running through these really plush, lush fields, and it immediately, and it's all in color and it's gorgeously shot, right? And then it cuts from that to like the war-torn, bombed-out wreckage of Ukraine with that same little dog being carried in the arms of the subjects of the film. It says so much without doing so little that I love that. And watching this little dog in the middle of that artillery doing his thing was just like, he's a dog. He's like, hey, I'm living my doggy life, but this is what's happening in the world. They animate. So when I talk about these porcelain figurines, they animated the images on the porcelain figurines in the same way that Carla Gutierrez animates the paintings in Frida. And we talk about this in the interview because I do have Brandon and Stefanoff. I have an interview with them that I'm going to play for you guys. And it's bad in a war-torn country when a dog is tired of barking. When a dog gets tired of barking, baby, it's bad. And I particularly liked how they showed how bombs get dropped digitally. And what I mean by that is that they had these little devices that could, on a screen, where they could go and pinpoint, just like a GPS, pinpoint where they wanted to drop the bombs, and then they would just drop it digitally, as opposed to being in a plane and hovering and doing it that way, which is what we see in movies so many times. So I guess that's escalated. But war is war, no matter where you at. And I just am fascinated by this whole process. Before I get into this interview, let's get into some of these comments. So let's see here. So Brandon says Moana 2 was decent and wonderful. I agree. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. He said it did gangbusters this weekend for animation fans. It did. And he also said he's going to see the award-buzzed animated movie Flow, possibly on Thursday, Lord of the Rings, War of the Rum, and then Sonic 3. And then 2024 will be done. I know this year went quick. Like, it was like, it just kind of flew by. Also, the next big Disney sequel for next year that you're so stoked for is Zootopia 2. Yes. And then Sad Production says, yep, that's why I'm an artist. Me too. Because you need a coping mechanism. Life can be really funky and hard sometimes. And sometimes tapping into your artistry can really, really help. Thank you for the flowers and thank you for saying 100. Oh, you're more of a cartoonist than an artist. Okay, I didn't know that. But you also said you love some cartoonists. Okay, that's cool. Um, I love how y'all be talking to each other. It gives me life. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna let y'all take a look and a listen to this interview. Oops, to this interview with the filmmakers and the subjects of Porcelain War, and I'll be right back. I really enjoyed this film because as an artist, I can totally relate to tapping into your art when you're faced with the atrocities of war. That really kind of viscerally hit me. And so I wanted to start out by saying thank you for putting that on film for us because it helps to put in perspective what's important in life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's talk about the beginning. I love how you guys started the film with running through the fields and all the color and it was gave this warm and fuzzy thing and then that juxtaposition of it going from that to walking through the bombed areas. What was the decision to start the film in that way? Either one of you can take it first.
Well, I mean, I can speak to my experience. As we received the footage from Anya and Slava, you know, really the first couple rolls of film, so to speak, were absolute reverence and inspiration. They were traveling through nature. They were focusing on butterfly or flower or their dog Frodo. And we, you know, immediately realized this is not B-roll. This is the soul of their life, of Ukraine, and it was of deep importance to them. That's what inspired their art. And then the next role, all of a sudden, we're seeing destroyed neighborhoods and buildings and houses that were lost and this destruction. And this is one day apart, or often the same day they're going through this. And to have this kind of emotional whiplash, and yet in the middle of war, you know, seeking out inspiration and light and beauty and refusing to, you know, kind of cower or hide away from that, but saying, no, we're still going to live, we're still going to create. That was really, you know, it's a way without saying what I just said, just by putting these two images together, it contains that entire concept. And so in that way, I think that's cinema, right? We can have two things that take on more meaning than they do. It's more than the sum of the parts because they're next to each other. So to juxtapose was a way we could communicate this very viscerally, very universally.
I love that. I watched the film a couple of times, and even after I've seen it a few times, that moment still just kind of sits right here in my heart. Thank you so much. Slava, I want to talk to you about creating the porcelain pieces. How long does it take you guys to create it and cast it and put the designs on it? Because it seems like a very meticulously arduous task, but the result is absolutely gorgeous.
Well, thank you so much. It's really complicated work. It's a long time. It's really long time. Sometime till 2 months or more, because Anya never rush. Anya's painting is the main part of our art because I usually I only create these figurines like canvas for Anya's work. Sometimes I paint something, but usually my work is finished when Anya uh, take from me this ready to paint figurine, and if she's starting to tell a really complicated story, she never think about how long time it may take. And for our movie, Anya created 3 figurine especially, and it's most complicated story, more detailized than ever before. We tried to tell in these figurines, not straight but in allegory way, about our peaceful past in Crimea, about our present in war and about our dreams for the future. But because these stories was animated by Blue Studio in Poland, it's not only a story from these three figurines, because Anya sent to Blue Studio all photos of all figurines, all her painting, uh, 20 years of work, and they investigate Anya's style, and they was able to continue Anya's painting on this figurine for animation, and they created 7,000. They drew 7,000 hand drawing pictures for this animation.
That animation was fire. Can I just tell you that animation, the only time I've ever seen something close or similar to that being done was with Carla Gutierrez's documentary Frida, where she makes the paintings come to life. That's the only other time I personally have seen it. I'm sure there may be others that exist, but that's the only thing that I remember. But this was much more meticulous because the images were so much smaller, right? I want to just close out with there was something that someone said. They said when tomorrow comes, it would depend on how we tie our boots today. How does that resonate with you now on the other side of this documentary? Because again, you guys hit me in the heart every time, and that hit me too.
It hit me. I mean, I thought, wow, this is unbelievable that the choices that you're making when you get up in the morning, not only do they affect your life, they affect the life of your family, they affect the life of your community, but they resonate. You know, Slava talks about this concept. I mean, it's resonating through history. The members of Saigon, they said, we want to bring these cameras into our daily experience in the front line, because if we can tell our story, maybe someone else won't have to be there.
During the war, we cannot fix anything. Our culture is the main target of this aggression, and because this war, our museums was destroyed, our university was damaged, and most important, so many our artists and writers and teachers, any people who create something in culture was killed on front line or on just in their bedroom and kitchen, because Russia shelling the districts of apartment houses, and every day and every night people die. And because they killed our artists and parents of our future artists, they kill in future of our culture. And it's our duty to continue our culture, to make something new instead of all these people, because nobody can bring these people back to life.
This piece of art is going to live in perpetuity, and it's so, so, so important. Slava, thank you so much for putting yourself out there and recording what you saw and giving us a slice of your art in the process. It was so beautiful and so much needed in the times that we're living in right now. And must I say, that little doggy is hella cute. Is it a he or a she?
Thank you so much. It's he, and he is amazing. He is brave under the shelling. He is patient in journey, and he is really kind with audience. He loves people.
He was hella cute. I'm like, look at him. He's like, it don't have a care in the world. It's just living his best little doggy life. But with that, I want to thank you both for giving me time to chat with you today. Again, I wholeheartedly loved Porcelain War, and I think it's much needed and it's such a gift. Thank you both, Slava and Brendan, for all you do and for letting me talk to you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you from all Ukrainians. I'm here instead of so many people. Thank you.
You're welcome. You guys, if you get a chance to see Porcelain War, I highly suggest checking it out. I just want to show you these pictures of the figurines that I was talking about. See how intricate that is? And then they take that imagery and they animated it and brought it to life. And it did a little swirl situation as it was brought to life. And then this is from the poster that just gives you a huge idea of look at this bombed out building and they placed this porcelain owl in there. Look at the juxtaposition and the beauty of that. I just absolutely loved it. Before I go on, this is what I did last week. So in the middle there is Amanda Salas. She is the entertainment reporter for Fox 11 LA here in Los Angeles. Next to her with the pink hair is Gray Drake, who comes on Fox 11 LA every Friday. Next to Amanda to your left is Rick Hong, who is an entertainment reporter, and of course, moi. So we hopped over to Fox 11 LA to talk about holiday movies and what our favorite popcorn movies were. I will give you the link for that so that you can check it out on your own, where we talk about holiday movies. Next up, I'm going to talk about this film called The End. It is the holiday season. As Brandon has so aptly pointed out, it is officially the holiday season. You said you love watching Charlie Brown specials every year, and your favorite holiday favorite holiday Xmas animated specials. I love that. Wow is right. So let's talk a little bit about The End. The End is going to be in LA and in New York. It's going to have a release on December 6th and in select cities on December 13th. It's directed and written by Joshua Oppenheimer, and it stars Tilda Swinton and Michael Shannon. Now, what happens in this film is 25 years after an environmental collapse left the earth uninhabitable. Mother and father, who are Michael and Tilda in this picture, and son, played by George McKay, who was in 1917. Do I have a picture, George? I don't. Where did that go? Okay, so they're all confined to this bunker where they struggle to maintain hope and a sense of normalcy by clinging to the rituals of daily life, right? Until the arrival of a stranger girl who's played by Moses Ingram. You may have seen her in Lady in the Lake and the Queen's Gambit. She upends their happy routine and their happy home, honey. And son, a naive 20-something who has never seen the outside world, is fascinated by her, and suddenly the delicate bonds of blind optimism, have held this wealthy clan together begin to fray. As the tensions rise, their seemingly idyllic existence starts to crumble with long repressed feelings of remorse and resentment threatening to destroy the family's delicate balance. But their reckoning with difficult truths also paints to a different way forward, one based on acceptance, love, and a capacity for change. This is what I will say about this film. This film was fascinating to me, mostly because it's a musical. And like I said, there's a lot of musicals out this year. There's The End, there's Honora, there's Wicked, there's Amelia Perez. There's one other one that's escaping my brain at the moment, but there's a lot of musicals this year. What y'all saying now? Your other favorite, what did you say, Brandon? Your other favorite is Olive the Other Reindeer. I love that. But there's a lot of musicals happening this year, and some of them are light and fluffy. Some of them are very dark. Some of them have a mixture of light and fluffy and dark. This one is straight up dark. And what I loved about it is that it's super avant-garde. It's filmed in these salt mines, which I thought was like a Hollywood set. But you'll listen to the interview with Joshua Oppenheimer, and I tell him about, and he tells me about that. When they're singing, it reminds me of what we call recitative. And recitative is a method of talk singing where you're talking and singing the dialogue simultaneously, where it doesn't really feel like you're singing. And that method is used in Dreamgirls a lot, especially during the fight scene in Dreamgirls. So I was fascinated by this when it came to the end. And baby, and the thing about recitative is that it's almost like an extension of the dialogue. That's what I really love about it. And that's what I loved about The End. But baby, Tilda Swinton singing is worth the price of admission alone. But before we get to Tilda and Michael and Joshua Oppenheimer, I have been promising y'all this interview for the piano lesson for the longest time. So I'm going to go ahead and play this interview. And the piano lesson is currently streaming on Netflix. So make sure you get your life and check that out. But here is my interview with director Malcolm Washington and his brother, John David Washington, for the piano lesson. Hey, my brother,
What's
how you
up?
doing?
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. So we're gonna keep the party going from the press conference, all right?
Right.
I love the tones. I love the colors you got going right now.
Why, thank you, Mr. Director. I appreciate it. So listen, everybody got that one relative that got that slick talk and game, right? Like Lyman in the show. Okay. Who was that person on set?
Wow, going for tea, huh?
Yeah. I'll tell you this. Danielle and Sam are two of the greatest shit talkers that I've seen.
Man, I feel like we're snitching right now. I'm not gonna deny, honestly, I think as far as like the slick talk, you gotta, if you listen and pay attention carefully, Corey Hawkins, is very slick with it. Like really, like he's slick with it.
Yeah,
he's smooth with it. Smooth cat right there.
All right. I'll take that. So
Actually,
when I was in the
hold on, I'm
press
gonna give a quick shout out. The slickest, smoothest one on set was Glenn, the stunt coordinator.
Oh, shout out,
Glenn Foster.
Yeah, that's true.
He's like, let me take that back. I got somebody else I want to shout out.
Slick. Shout out to Glenn. Shout out to Glenn.
So listen, when I was listening to the press conference, your dad was talking about August Wilson's dialogue feeling like music, and when a note is off, you can feel it, right? As the director and one of the actors in this piece, did you have a moment where you felt like the composition was going down the wrong track, or did you have a moment where you felt like it was absolute perfection?
That's a cool question, because maybe in the Broadway version it might have been might be a different tune, different music. So you had to get rid of what we did on the Broadway production. You know, it's a different song in this regard. You know what I mean? So what might felt off or different from that was actually what we needed for the film. And that was part of the reason I wanted to do it too, in the style that Malcolm has for the film. You know, it felt more naturalistic. There was more. It's hard to describe exactly what kind of music we're talking about, but it was definitely different from the play. And so listening to it during the film, it felt. It took some getting used to for me, to be honest, but I realized that I knew it was a different medium, and once I got used to that rhythm, it was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing, and I loved it, and I really got a hold of it.
It's a really great question. I'm glad we're speaking to you. I'm glad that you asked this question, because to me, I wrestled with this more as a writer, because in an adaptation like this, as a writer, you're doing so many things that you're trying to cover your tracks on. Like you don't want them to see your work per se. Like you want it to feel. You want the actors to come in and be like, yeah, this is what we know this. But there's so much work happening on the page, especially with regards to the dialogue and this metaphor of music. It brings me to there's an incredible hip hop producer that's kind of was revolutionary called Jay Dilla, and what Dilla would Dilla. What Dilla would do is he would chop up samples of other people's music. Like he wouldn't play live music. He would take pieces of all these other music and find its own rhythm within it. And so I think that that's kind of what we were trying to do at the script stage, where we're taking this dialogue and these lines, but we're chopping it up, we're moving it around, we're taking stuff out and working on it to a point where it has this new rhythm, but there's the essence and feel of what it's sampling, the essence and feel of what we're honoring, and it's all there. But you don't see the million sutures that went into it.
This is my time, but y'all know how I feel about y'all. Y'all know how I feel about the project. You already know.
Yeah.
And I am really grateful that you gave me a slice of your time today to talk about it a little further. Thank you.
Appreciate that question. That was a really good question.
Yeah, great question.
That was a new one. So thank you.
Thank you.
Got it like that.
I love that. They are hilarious. I love talking to them. I met them at Telluride when the film had its world premiere, and we've been getting down and cracking jokes ever since. So you guys, if you haven't seen the piano lesson, please go over to Netflix and check it out. This is Malcolm Washington's directorial debut. He's doing his thing. John David Washington's doing his thing. Danielle Deadweiler, Samuel L. Jackson, Michael Potts, Corey Hawkins. The whole cast is it's really fabulous, and you don't want to miss it. All right, so now that I done talked y'all up about the end, take a look and a listen to this interview with Michael Shannon and the director from the end, Joshua Oppenheimer. Now, this year there's a lot of musicals on film this year for whatever reason. And I come from the Broadway community. I've been in a couple of Broadway shows. So I'm just wondering, what made you want to tackle a musical on film? Because this is kind of unusual for you. And what inspired this piece?
First of all, I'd say the fact that this is a musical is what makes it a film about denial, about delusion, about that false hope we just talked about. I had been researching for a documentary project an oil tycoon who had violently intimidated communities to obtain his oil concessions and was then later in his life trying to build a bunker as a kind of Noah's Ark for his family. And I thought to myself, God, the film I'd like to make with this family would be a documentary in this bunker 25 years after they moved in. But obviously I wasn't going to make that. That wasn't in the cards. But then I watched on the way home one of my very favorite films, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg by Jacques Demy, a musical. And it just came to me. I was like, oh, this is the genre of false hope and delusion. It's a quintessentially American genre. And so I'll make the family American. This family was actually Asian from Asia. I'll make it an American story, and it'll be set in the bunker 25 years after environmental collapse has left the world largely uninhabitable, and I'll call it The End. And it came as a kind of epiphany, but thinking about it, it's the fact that it's a musical is what makes it about the lies we tell ourselves.
When I think about having a bunker and being the last human family existing, is somebody who doesn't like cold, that is the last place I'm trying to be.
Yeah, it's a salt mine. And early in the process, we realized that, because what gets the characters singing is their lies. It's the moments, these crises of doubt where they desperately try to convince themselves that everything's okay, and that takes the form of music. So it's not the truth that sings in this musical, it's these luminously beautiful, seductive lies, and where the truth comes in are in the silences. It's in the silence when they stop singing that the truth screams through. And that means that if you have beautiful, seductive music, you want the audience to feel the self-delusion with the characters. You want the audience to identify with that. And that meant we should forget that we're in a bunker. So the film shouldn't have that claustrophobia. When the characters are able to forget it, we should forget it. And that meant that meant that we should have exteriors. And so we decided that we shouldn't, if you film a whole movie in rooms with no windows, it starts to feel claustrophobic. And so we knew we decided that we would build the finished rooms, these palatial rooms, almost like an ant colony or a termite colony, as these finished caverns within a broader subterranean structure. And that's this salt mine deep under Sicily, an underground ocean that millions of years old, that we filmed in for 3 weeks. We were just completely underground.
So that wasn't a set. That was, wow. Okay, Joshua, I see you. I was like, how did they build that? I'm glad I asked. Wow, that's impressive. That is really
the world's most beautiful salt mine.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Well,
I like your set.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my house, so
Your house? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. Thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of yours for quite some time, and I love the trajectory of your acting career, because you feel like, to me, that you always try to challenge and one up yourself with each project that you do. And and the end to me would be no different, right?
Yeah.
So would you say, as an actor who spent quite a bit of time on the stage, at Steppenwolf and some other theater companies, would you say with this film and with George and Tammy that you have been tapping into your musical side and stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit?
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, those are both. George and Tammy was very intimidating. I mean, George Jones is considered one of the greatest singers of all time. So that was a big challenge. And with this, I wouldn't say it was more comfortable, but it certainly wasn't. as intimidating, just because I knew I didn't have to sound like someone else. Like I didn't have to sound like a famous singer that everybody loved. I just needed to sound like Father. I really enjoy character singing, like singing in the voice of a character and still communicating through the lyrics and the singing the same way that you would through the dialogue. That it's not two separate things necessarily, that you're always in character telling the story. Sometimes you're talking, sometimes you're singing. But because Father's not like he's not like Pavarotti or something. He's some old dude who's been down in a bunker for 25 years, but he still has in his heart something to express that can only come out through singing. And I thought that was really beautiful.
I totally know what you mean about singing in the character, because it's
Yeah.
one thing to be, singing, but it's another thing to make the character sound like he or she is singing the song and making it an extension of the dialogue, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a really great example of that between me and George when he's asking me, what was it like when you met Mom? And we go into that song where father and son and the butler are singing about, and there's a great exchange right at the top of that where it's literally like George and I are still having a conversation, but we just start singing. And that I think to me is a perfect example of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say you're right on that one. If the end was coming, which nowadays seems like it might come sooner than we think, how do you think you personally would prepare for the end?
I think nowadays, the older I get, the less inclined I am to, buy batteries and canned food and make sure I have plenty of duct tape. I'm just kind of like, if it happens, it happens. I'm not sure I would want to live through it. I wouldn't want to live in the bunker. That's not for me. I'm willing to accept whatever comes and that'll be it.
You better than me, Michael Shannon, because out here in California, we always living on the edge of the end with
I know.
you know what I mean? With
I know.
earthquakes happening all the time, we're just kind of like, I have 2 bags downstairs. I have like a whole behind the sofa in the living room. There's like a whole camping situation that I spend like every 2 or 3 months. And my mom's like, did you check the batteries? I'm like, yes, Ma, I checked the batteries. I changed everything out. Yes, there's food down there. Calm down.
Well, you're smarter than me.
I hope that the next time we talk, it's about something a little lighter.
Yeah, I'll try and make something a little comedy or something. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Like I said at the beginning of the conversation, it doesn't matter to me what you make. I'm gonna see whatever you in. It don't matter to me because I like your work. So there's that.
Thank you, Carla.
You're welcome. Thank you for giving me your time today, Michael. I really do appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. Take care now. I have been dying to talk to Michael Shannon. I was so excited to do that interview. Again, the film is called The End, and it is in select theaters. Is it already in select theaters now? Let me go check my notes while I'm looking for this next thing. I think it's in select theaters now. No. So The End is going to be in LA and New York on December 6th and in select cities on December 13th. So check your local listings and check your movie theaters to see where it's playing. You might want to check it out though. It's a musical and it's really a very avant-garde, interesting way of doing a musical in a bunker that looks like that is a salt mine. I'm just saying, it was kind of fantastic. Anywho, The Day of the Fight. This film is directed by Jack Huston and it stars Michael C. Pitt, Nicolette Robinson, John Magaro, who is in another film that's out this year called September 5th, Steve Buscemi, who also was on Boardwalk Empire, Ron Perlman, and Joe Pesci. This is like a reunion of sorts for Michael C. Pitt and Jack Huston. They worked on Boardwalk Empire together, so it was like a big reunion, as did Steve Buscemi. And I think John Magaro worked on that too. But it's based on it's inspired by a 1951 short that was done by Stanley Kubrick which I've actually seen, and it was really good. And I thought, ooh, this would be great as a feature film, and now it is. So what happens is this one celebrated boxer, Irish Mike, played by Michael C. Pitt, is about to fight for the first time since leaving prison. And to prepare, he takes this redemptive journey. So we go on this journey with him from the time he opens his eyes that day of the fight to the time he closes his eyes that day of the fight. And it takes place in the streets of Brooklyn. He's reconnecting with those people that he loves the most. And while trying to right the wrongs of his past, he risked everything for the fight of his life. Now, this is what I'll say. I have seen a lot of boxing movies, as I'm sure y'all have. I mean, who hasn't seen Rocky? Who hasn't seen Raging Bull? Almost everybody has, and everything in between. But what I've never seen is a film where we watch the journey of the boxer the day of, from the time he opens his eyes to the time he closes his eyes. And I enjoyed that journey, and I enjoyed seeing it from the people that he loved, from their point of view, the people that he wronged, their point of view, as he goes on this redemptive journey through Brooklyn. Nicolette Robinson plays his, I'm not sure if she's his wife or his girlfriend, but I'm going to say his wife. She plays his wife, and we see her mostly in flashbacks. Now, if she sounds familiar, you just saw her in Woman of the Hour on Netflix with Anna Kendrick, where she did a spectacular job. And she also starred on Broadway in the musical Waitress. But you don't see her that often. Like I said, she's mostly in flashbacks. But when you do see her and you hear her sing, it's very, very powerful. She's a very powerful presence on the screen. And the story, I just love the story. Now, it's a little slow sometimes, but I did love the story. But, instead of listening to me jabber on about it, I'm going to let you listen to Jack and Michael and Nicolette tell me about it. So this is an interview with Michael C. Pitt, Jack Huston, and Nicolette Robinson from Day of the Fight. Hi, you guys.
Hi, Carla. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Very well.
Very
It's
good.
been a long day, but you know what? We're so happy it's you now.
Aw, thank
Bringing
you.
new life into the room, which is always lovely.
Aw, thank you. I'm glad you've waited for me, and we're gonna have
We
some fun.
did. We did indeed.
I saw a short doc reel a long time ago by Stanley Kubrick that was done in 1951 that has a very similar vibe to this. And it also, with it being in black and white, kind of reminds me of that reel and Scorsese's Raging Bull. I've never seen it from the boxer's point of view, from the moment he wakes up to the time he closes his eyes at the end of his day.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know what made you approach it from that point of view, because that I have not seen.
Well, it's interesting because the Kubrick documentary, which serves as a 15-minute short doc, and it follows a boxer on the day of a prize fight. Simple in its idea of what it was, but it's very funny when I go back to the films that I've loved. They can be a simple idea, but one element raises the stakes in such an immense way. So, well, what if the day of this prize fight was also possibly the last day of this man's life? Everything. So I said day of the fight was a metaphor, that it's not day of the fight as in what he's fighting for in the ring, it's that he's fighting for everything. It's the day of the biggest fight of his life. And that's everything that's ever mattered to him. It comes up to this one day. And I think it's a life in a day that I wanted to try to paint colors throughout this day about relationships and also about memories, trying to build this character in front of our eyes, really seeing it from his perspective. And who better to portray this than, the great Michael Pitt. It's there's no other actor in my eyes that could have done justice like he did to the role.
Yeah, Michael, you did that. You really inhabited him from the top of your eyebrows to the bottom of your toes.
Thank you so much.
You really inhabited that. I was interested to know, how did you go about training for this? Because we don't see the fight in its totality, even though I know that probably happened and Jack, cut it up the way that he did to make it a little more interesting to watch. But what was your training like going into this? Because have you done boxing ever prior to this?
You know.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we approached
Yeah.
it. And I learned to box in Brooklyn, and so I had a Brooklyn style. And a lot of my friends were ex boxers and champions. So I trained with them, and then also on the West Coast, I trained with at Freddie Roach's gym, and I just trained as a boxer. We didn't train as a for vanity or
Yeah, no
anything
choreography,
like that.
no bullshit. It's if he's gonna fight, you're gonna fight. Beautiful.
And the reason,
Appreciate that.
thank you, because I feel like the audience has they've become smarter. They've seen so many boxing films. They've seen all the bag of tricks, and so I felt like
They
we
can
had
call
to do
bullshit, man. Yeah,
Yeah, they can
they
call
will call
bullshit.
bullshit. And the film's about honesty. It's about truth. After you give a performance like that, you wouldn't want to drop the baton at the last hurdle. That's the whole thing. It's like after delivering such a unforgettable performance as an actor, with so many unforgettable performances, but like when we got to the fight, it was amazing because Michael was the one who was saying to me, I want to make contact. I got to do this. And thank God we did it on the last few days and he didn't get hurt, but it was a feat to watch. It was something special and we managed to do it in a day and a half. So that was something.
Well, this film was something special. And I want to say two things to you before I sign off. First of all, Michael, you gave Mikey, Irish Mike, such heart and vulnerability that you made him a delight to watch on screen. Watching your acting juxtaposition of him from the first frame to the last was really quite stellar to experience.
Thank you so much.
Jack,
Thank you.
the way you do the imagery with even from the point of him looking at his reflection in the water to so many other things I could bring up. It was simply brilliant. Y'all, thank you so much for letting
Thank you so much. What lovely words to say. Go tell everybody.
Oh, honey, you don't have to worry. I
Please.
will.
Oh, thank you.
Please.
Bye.
Bye, darling. Bye, bye, bye.
That song that you sing is so beautiful. Did you write that song?
No, I did write a song for the film, which you hear in the credits, but that song is Creedence Clearwater, Have You Ever Seen the Rain? And it's actually like an up-tempo song that you would never even imagine, you would never even think to make it into a ballad, but Jack had this vision and I just thought it was such a beautiful choice. He chose that song for this moment.
And I know that you're a mom and you say something to the extent of, when you're a child, the parent is the child's entire world. And then they turn 13 and they hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Were you like that with your parents? And do you fear that that's going to happen with your kids?
Oh my God, I fear it all the time. But I think I was really, really close with my parents all through my teenage years. So they got really lucky. I think when I hit my 20s, they sort of were like, oh, here's her teenage years. But no, I think that there's so much about Sasha in this film for me that I just had Lucy, my daughter, in my mind for so much of it. I hope she still loves me and wants to be around me when she's a teenager. But yeah, I think it's also about being conscious of the practice of letting go a little bit when you can. And I don't know, I'm very nervous for the teenage years. I've got a little bit of time though, so that's good.
Yeah, you got a lot of time.
Yeah. Thank God.
Right? There was also something where Mikey was talking about how the best day of his life became the worst day of his life. Have you ever had a situation like that where you thought that about a particular day, and how did you overcome that?
It is interesting how we can have days like that. The first thing that comes to mind is one of my best friends. I went to Dallas with her for her mom's funeral and was staying with her, and that was a rough day, but then at the same time we all came back, and after the funeral we had there was so much joy. We played this game with with everybody there, and it was just we were crying from laughing but then also from grief. I think there's something really true to humanity and to life, to the human experience, where you can live in the duality of those moments. at any point, really.
That it gives you something to think about, right? And I
Yeah.
loved this film because we never see, we've seen a zillion different fight movies, but we've never seen it from the fighter's point of view, the day of, like what they go through that day leading up to the fight and after the fight, and what their mindset is. It's always overblown and over textualized. So I love this film for that reason. And I really loved you in it. I really did. But I want to end our session with this. At some point, I forget who says it, but someone says, what do you think we're doing here? Are we here to help each other? And they go through this list of things that they think human beings are put on this earth for. What do you think?
I think we're here to love, to learn, and to experience one another and make connections. And I think that's why it's such a gift as an actor to get to tell these stories, because we get to do that so much in our work. And when we're doing our best work, that's when we're doing it. We know that we're doing those things, I think. And yeah, I think it's about connection.
I think you're right. And I am so happy that in my lifetime, I got to connect with you. You know how much I love you. And I'm so proud of you. Oh my God, my
Don't
heart.
make me cry. Don't make me cry.
My heart is bursting with joy at the fact that other people are getting to see what I've known about you all along since the day I met you. So congratulations, honey. And I'll see you next time.
I love you. Thank you.
I love you, Black. I do really love her. FYI, but not really. So Nicolette and I met doing I think it was like an industrial show, which was a precursor to the types of shows that they put on the Disney Cruise Line. And she did all the princess stuff, and I was doing Mama Odie from Princess and the Frog, and a couple other stuff. But that's how I met her. And then, of course, I met Leslie Odom Jr. through her because they're married. So you guys, Day of the Fight will be in theaters on December 6th, which is coming up in just a few days. Get your holiday movie going in and check it out. It's a great film. It's in black and white, which makes you pay attention to the film as opposed to all the other stuff. I love the fact that it's in black and white. Let's see what y'all talking about before I get into Moana. So you like, I am not a boxing guy. And you you said you're not into boxing. Okay, got it. It's not a fun film, but it's a very interesting film. And yes, Brandon, I know Moana 2 was good. I'm about to get into it. And you told me about Zootopia. Thank you. And you're excited for Dogman in January, same person who did Captain Underpants. Okay, I see you. Thank you for that tidbit of info. All right, y'all. So let's get into it. Moana 2. Moana 2 reunites Moana and Maui 3 years later for an expansive new voyage alongside a crew of unlikely seafarers. After receiving an unexpected call from her wayfinding ancestors, Moana must journey to the far seas of Oceania into the dangerous, long-lost waters for an adventure unlike anything she's ever faced. This has a bunch of characters, so I'll just read through them. We've got new characters. We've got Moni. We've got Lotto. We've got Samia, who Khaleesi rather, Lambert Suda plays Samia, and I think Samia needs her own movie. I'll get into that in a minute. Nicole Scherzinger, who's on Broadway right now doing Sunset Boulevard, is doing the voice of Cena. Of course, Olai Gravajo is doing the voice of Moana, and Dwayne Johnson returns as the voice of Maui. It's directed by Jason Hand, Lidu Miller, and David G. Derrick Jr. It has new music by Grammy winners Abigail Barlow and Emily Beer, and three-time Grammy winner Mark Messina, Jared Bush, and Miller also wrote the screenplay for the film, which is executive produced by Jennifer Lee from Frozen fame, Bush and Johnson. So I will come back on camera so that we can talk about Miss Moana, honey. So this is what I'll say. It did gangbusters at the box office this weekend. You know, it's a wonderfully gift wrap of a family-friendly film. So for that reason, it was great. When I went to the screening of it, it was with a lot of little kids, and they loved it. They all came dressed up as Moana. It was so cute. The little girls had little trains, and they were giving you Moana princess, honey, but it's cinematically it's probably one of the most gorgeous animated films I've seen in a minute. It's really, really beautifully done. It does drag a bit, and I will say, without hating on it, that the songs in this one aren't as memorable as the first one. What could be better than this seems to never end, in my opinion. It's sung well by Alawi, but it was a little on the boring side because yeah, it was a little on the boring side. On the flip side, though, I love this song called Beyond, which feels like a response to How Far I'll Go from the first movie. And then my favorite song from the whole movie is this song called Get Lost. I really loved Get Lost because it introduced a new character, a little villainous character, and I kind of loved that. I loved up until Get Lost, I was kind of bored. I'm not gonna lie. Up until Get Lost, I was kind of like, okay, this feels a lot like the first one, but not as good. But then from the minute they start singing Get Lost until the end, I was totally in. But that little girl who voices the sister, Samia Khaleesi, Khaleesi need her own movie because she was the standout in this one for me. And she was hilarious. And I do love the ancestral storyline and honoring the Hawaiian, Polynesian, Samoan culture. I do love that. And I do applaud Dwayne The Rock Johnson for doing that. So that is my thoughts on Moana 2. I did like it, but I didn't love it. I'm just being honest about it. What are y'all saying over here? Aren't they doing a live action Moana as well? I heard that they are, but I don't know. But they might want to leave that alone. I'm just saying, I'm Moana'd out. And you said you think they're filming it now. Yeah, they need to leave that alone. Anyway, you said I love inclusion in films. I do too. As somebody that is othered, you like to see you being represented on the screen because it lets people of that culture know, hey, if they can do that, then maybe I can do it too. You said they're also doing a live action of Lilo and Stitch. Okay, didn't know about that, but okay, thank you for that tidbit of info. I wanted to make sure that you guys know about this banner. There we go. So that is the link to the Fox 11 LA segment that I did. And just to show you who is doing it with me, it is Amanda Salas, who is the entertainment reporter for Fox 11 LA, Gray Drake, who is a freelance entertainment reporter with Fox 11 LA, Rick Hong, who's an entertainment reporter, and of course your girl, I was there. So that is the link to what we say are our favorite popcorn movies of 2024 and what films we think are going to hit the awards circuit for 2024. So I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that and let you see that and check it out so that you have an opportunity to support us. All right. Having said that, make sure you see the piano lesson, which is streaming on Netflix. Porcelain War is coming to a theater near you. Please do yourselves a favor and check it out. Look at the intricacy of that snail and that porcelain. They showed how they do the cast for it and everything. It is open in New York at the IFC Center. It has been there since November 22nd. It's opened in LA at the Lamel Monica on November 29th, and it was the Grand Jury Prize winner for the documentary competition at this year's Sundance Film Festival. Day of the Fight is going to hit theaters, I believe, on December 6th. Yes, December 6th. It stars, that's in that picture is Michael C. Pitt and Ron Perlman, who plays his coach. And this is Nicolette and Michael C. Pitt in Day of the Fight. Make sure you check out that one, along with The End, which is a musical. It is going to be in LA and New York on December 6th and in select cities on December 13th. In the next few weeks, when I come back, I'm getting close to celebrating my 500th show. But before we get to that, I will be talking about No Good Deed, which is going to be streaming on Netflix. It is a Netflix series. It's very, very good. I watched it, and I will have interviews with the entire cast, including pictured here, Ray Romano and Lisa Kudrow. I will also be talking about The Last Showgirl if I haven't already. I will also be talking about that's a terrible picture. Let's not use that one. 688, which stars Kerry Washington. It is about 855 Black women joined the war effort to address a 3-year male backlog. And despite discrimination in war-torn conditions, they sort over 17 million pieces of mail and get it done ahead of schedule. So I will be talking about that film, which is dropping on Netflix December 20th. No Good Deed is going to hit Netflix on December 12th. And then last but not least, we'll be talking about September 5th, which is going to be hitting sometime in December. And I have the entire cast of The Order, which is going to be hitting theaters on December 27th. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware of all of those different things so that you can, support a sister. I'm just saying. And we'll get that going. Yes, I am hitting 500 shows. I can't even believe it. Isn't that bananas? That's bananas, right? 500. Woo, woo. I got the wrong one. You said something about 500. Where is it? There it is. 500. Woo. So yes, I've actually done about 800 episodes. I did about 300 when I was over at Black Hollywood Live with the Curvy Critic, and here on my own, I'll be approaching 500 sooner than later. Brandon once again says he cannot wait for Sonic 3. I got you on that one. So having said all of that, y'all, thank you so much for popping in and listening and checking out everything that I recommend and listening to the interviews and supporting me. And baby, yes, that Wicked interview is still going strong. It has hit over 1 million views on my personal channel. It's hit like somewhere between 50 and above on other people's channels that have streamed it. So thank you to everyone who repurposed it. Thank you to everyone who uploaded it. Thank you to everyone who watched it and commented. And thank you most of all to Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande and Universal Pictures, who allowed me to speak with them regarding Wicked, which is also doing really great at the box office as well. So you guys, having said that, thank you so very much for popping in and hanging with us, sister. I will be back next week and I'll talk to you then, okay? Bye.
Hold up. Wait a minute. I wish you love.